Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you as always for your questions. Ali here, Stevie is here as well. Don, you look a bit smoky today.
Smoky?
Yeah, a little bit of a smoky filter on.
No, it's not a filter. I mean, I've got the lights either side of the laptop, so maybe I need to brighten them up a little bit.
Right, okay, well, maybe. How are you, Don, anyway? You well?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, I'm very, very good.
Ooh.
Great day of football today. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you did. Okay, right. Don, during the show, said that Liverpool are 40... What's going on with the music? 40% chance of Liverpool winning the league. Stevie, what says you?
Yep.
So he said 40-40 City, Liverpool, and 20 for Arsenal.
Yes, that's good. Just try to buy yourself some time.
Well, I'm going to... You've just asked me
Not
the
easy,
question.
Stevie, is it?
Geez, a minute then.
All right, don't be narky.
Probably go...
Pressure. Pressure.
Probably go... 45...
45.
Yeah, mate.
To who?
35, 20.
45, 35, 20. Very good. In which order?
In favour of Manchester City.
Well done. And Liverpool, I assume, is the 35? Yes?
Second.
Yeah.
Second favourite. Okay. Yeah, you said third there.
I don't think I did. I think
Yes,
I
you
said
did.
35.
Ali, what did he say?
I have no idea.
Oh, he did.
Thank you.
Which means I said 35, but he doesn't want to back me. Ali?
What? Why wouldn't I want to back you, Dan?
Well, because it's the way
You
the way it
feel I
rolls.
have something against you,
Just
Dan?
the way I roll.
What, you're a lone
Well,
ranger? You're a lone wolf?
Well, you backed him earlier on in the show when you said he would have scored.
Yeah, I said you would have
Right.
scored.
Oh, that's nice.
And do you know what I want to ask you?
Go on.
here
Ask
we
me.
go.
You know when you were a kid, right?
Yes.
Playground.
Yep. Not yes.
What number pick were you?
I was all right in the playground.
All right.
Yeah, I was okay. It was just when everyone else got bigger and stronger, and I was just weak and feeble. that's where my game really lacked.
That's what kept you down.
Yes, yeah, the lack of skill and the lack of growth and the lack of muscle.
So basically, you and Enzo Fernandez, like
Yes. Apart from that, we're very similar, me and Enzo.
Enzo Maresca was talking about you.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Let's talk Trent, shall we? Because Don was
Oh,
very
my
critical
goodness.
of him today.
Did you see it?
Well, yes, I did, yeah. For Stevie, have you been impressed by Trent's defensive displays this year? He seems to have less quality on the ball, but is performing solidly with his defensive responsibilities.
I mean, honestly, it's actually, as a player, for people to be saying those things about you must be quite galling and embarrassing. Because that means that you must have been so bad before.
Wow.
Quite frankly. I mean, I agree with Don today. You know, people talk about all this transfer talk and Real Madrid and everything else, and the question is always, does it affect you? And at the end of the day, we never really know. But the fact is that you can either shut it off or you can't get it out of your head. And on today's performance, Trent looked as though he had other things on his mind.
Oh, really?
So I'm afraid I'm with Don on Trent's performance today.
Ali, what did you make of Phil Foden's performance? He didn't have a better season than Cole Palmer last year, but the title meant he got Player of the Year, and now he's been poor for City this season without being criticised by the media. This is from Kay is my favourite.
Okay. All right. Which means that you're not the favorite.
Well, this is apt at work, at home.
and how does that sit with you?
I think I'm comfortable with that, yes, because, why wouldn't Kay be everybody's favourite?
I don't know, Dan. You're a lone wolf, as we have come to know. Look, yes, Phil Foden hasn't been the player that we thought he was going to be this season just yet. It doesn't mean that he's not going to get to the point to where he's going to be productive, consistently productive for Manchester City. But he is among those players that in the attack for Manchester City are limited by the lack of speed that this team has in possession of the ball. Because the slower, less space he's going to have to operate, and he gets crowded out of the areas in which he wants to operate. He wants to be somewhere in and around the top of the 18-yard box because things are so slow and so crowded there that it means that he doesn't have space to play and therefore is unable to find the productivity that we've come to expect.
Yeah, and he hasn't started. Has he started 2 games in a row so far this season?
Well, he's played in the Carabao Cup. They lost midweek, didn't they? And he played this weekend, so he lost that as well. So he's rubbish now.
I would guess that's the first 2 games in a row he
Right.
started. It's hard for anybody to get in any sort of rhythm and get some form when you're either not starting or you're coming off the bench.
Oh, you have a go at someone like Anthony. When does he start 2 games in a row? Or Phil Foden?
Okay. I thought we were asking a serious question.
Don.
Foden and Anthony in the same breath.
Don, how does playing on an uneven pitch at St James's Park impact your performance, if at all? Do you notice it as a player?
What do you mean? What's the question, Dan?
The uneven surface, uneven pitch at St James's Park.
Uneven service.
Uneven about it.
Was it on a slope? Haven't we been here and done this before?
Yeah, well, no. Used to be back in the day. It used to be sort of beveled.
Yes.
Stevie would know. He played there when the pitch was sort of beveled. I
Yes.
don't think it's like that anymore.
No, it's not.
Maybe slightly. It used to be again back in the day towards the Gallagher end, sort of kicking down the hill a little bit. I don't think that's the case anymore. If the pitch is poor, then obviously it affects your performance. It affects your first touch. You've got to be super careful, just in case it takes a bobble, or you might have to take 2 or 3 touches to get it under control. But I must admit, I've not noticed anything recently at St James's Park, the pitch being uneven.
Nuno Espirito Santo took Wolves, Don, to back-to-back 7th places, Europa League finish, when they first came up to the Premier League. How far can he take this Nottingham Forest side this season? They sit 3rd today after a 3-0 victory over West Ham.
Frightening, Dan, and I said it on the goal rush today in terms of what he's doing defensively. Yeah, he's got Chris Wood as a typical number 9 scoring goals, so it's good to see that that's still in fashion. But the back 4 today must be one of the cheapest back 4s in the Premier League this season. It has to be. So Ola Aina was on a free transfer, the right back. The left back's on loan from Villa, Alex Moreno. Milenkovic came from Fiorentina for about 15 million quid, and Murillo for 12 million quid. So the back 4 and the job that he's doing with the likes of Gibbs-White, who I think could be one. You talk Phil Foden, talk Cole Palmer. I think, honestly, Morgan Gibbs-White is in the conversation as a similar player, and most clubs would take him. So the job that Nuno's done, phenomenal.
Don, is there a manager who's getting more out of his squad than Iraola with Bournemouth? Many picked them to get relegated last season, and they finished 9th, and they play entertaining attacking football without changing their style based on their opposition.
Good shout, that. Villa fans might say Unai Emery. You know, got into the Champions League, they're sitting
You might say Nuno Espirito Santo.
I think as it stands still. Exactly, and on a slot, to be fair, top of the league. Did anyone really think, because he was a bit unknown after, you know, Sir Alex left Man United and the debacles that's happened there, and Arsenal with Arsene Wenger, and then Jurgen Klopp leaving, did we think that Arne Slot was going to be, you know, only 1 loss so far, 10 games in, flawless in the Champions League, last day at the Carabao Cup? So, yeah, some good nominees.
When we talk about the influence of foreign managers coming into the Premier League, it's clear to see the influence of Iraola coming from La Liga, Spanish manager, in which, if you follow La Liga, as we do, you would know that teams, even if you are at the bottom end of the table, you don't just go and park the bus, you don't just go and sit back, you'll try to play. Probably gonna get done by the better teams, but you have this personality about you in terms of your style of play, and that you're gonna try to keep possession and try to exploit the things that you do well. And so what I do like of Iraola and Bournemouth is the fact that it wasn't like they were just absorbing pressure today against Manchester City. Yeah, they were in a defensive posture, but it's not, we're just gonna sit here and we'll never test you, we'll never threaten you. When they did have the ball, when they did get out in counters and moments of transition, and when they did have possession of the ball, you can see a team that has patterns of play, that has an idea as to what they wanna do. They have an identity and a group of players that can actually execute that identity. Those things are important because it gives your team personality and a sense of character, and like, we can keep the ball against Manchester City. We can play against the big boys. We don't just have to sit here and hope for the best. We can actually go and play this team in the attacking half and try to challenge them defensively.
Stevie, the LA Galaxy will have to wait 22 days until their next playoff match. As a manager, how do you keep your team sharp with such a long layoff between matches?
Very, very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, you really only know after the next, what's the next, is it 2 games the next the next stage of the playoffs? Yeah? 2 games?
What, it was 22 days?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's only after the next stage is finished you'll figure out whether you've gone about it the right way, because there's no set way to do it. You know, every group of players would prefer to do different things.
Ricky Puig isn't happy. He's been tweeting.
Well, he shouldn't be. 22 days between games is madness. It's really difficult. I mean, what do? Do you give them time off at the start?
Right,
and then bring them in? Do you give them time off in the middle?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so difficult to figure out what to do for the best. And you really don't know until you've played the next couple of games and then you've figured out whether that was right. But again, this time next year, you might be at a different club and you might be in the same position, but depending on the makeup of your players, you might have to go about it a different way.
There's no correct answer.
So there really isn't. The only correct answer is when you've won the next stage and then you think you did the right thing.
How would you handle it, Ali?
Well, the correct answer is the scheduling for Major League Soccer and the length of the playoffs. And the reason it is 22 days is because you have a FIFA break in the middle of it, an international break in the middle of it. And so, a couple of things about the scheduling for Major League Soccer. Whatever momentum you're generating in the early part of the playoffs, that momentum comes to a grinding stop, to a grinding halt when you go into the international break. And I can tell you from experience, from a player who was in the playoffs with the LA Galaxy and was called in by Venezuela and could not go and play World Cup qualifiers because the LA Galaxy said, well, we're in the playoffs. And back then, we didn't used to stop for the international break in Major League Soccer. And so, now they've decided to stop during the international break, which is the right thing to do, but what you cannot have is an international break in the middle of your playoff. That's the scheduling part that puts a wrench in everything that you're trying to do. So what would I do? It's an impossible answer because you're being punished by winning your first 2 games in the playoff. The LA Galaxy would be better off having lost their second game last night against the Colorado Rapids, play the next game, then get your time off, and then set up for success for the remaining run of the playoffs.
Hey, the Revs, 2 or 3 seasons ago under Bruce, when the Revs won the Supporters' Shield, were clearly the best team in MLS, and a similar thing happened to them. They had to wait 3 weeks or something before a game.
Yeah.
And then by the time the game came around, they had just lost their edge, and they got knocked out.
Final question to you, Don. I'm American. My mum's English, and both her parents are Irish. I always root against England in the Euros and the World Cup, but my mum and her siblings think that's unreasonable. What do you think?
My days, I don't even understand the question. It's one of them. I've got no idea. He's in a pickle.
All right. Do you understand what's going on?
Absolutely, aye.
Good, okay. Is he being unreasonable?
No, not at all. The reason we have a problem in it, not just, well, think about it. I mean, Americans would have a problem with English because of the history, because of the English came over to America and tried to take over, right? And the Americans shoved them out and sent them back home.
Right.
Same thing happened with the Scots. The English tried to come to Scotland and take over Scotland.
Right.
And we shoved them back across the border.
Okay.
So, absolutely, if you're an American, you would have a reason not to want the English to win.
Right.
As the Scottish do.
There we are.
And the Irish.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add to this?
You want to stand up and sing the national anthem? Home of the brave, land of the free.
Which one?
July 4th, 1776.
I'm going to move on from this before we go down a dangerous road.
All right.
ESPN FC is back on your screen.
America!
As we'll be reflecting on Spurs against Aston Villa. And Manchester United against Chelsea.